Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox, and this is the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program, and we are joined by the legendary Duane Eddy. Duane, it's so good to see you.
Well, it's nice to be seen. At my age, it's nicer to be seen than viewed.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show. I know the show's relatively new, but we're broadcasting in the same area that you were born in. Tell us about your time in our area, and specifically being born in Corning, New York.
Corning, New York. I was always very proud of that because everywhere I'd go, and whenever they'd interview me and ask where I was born, I'd say Corning, and they'd say, "Where's that?" I said, Corning, New York, Corning glass. And wherever in the world is famous all over the world. So point any further.
Yeah. Yep. And you spent not as much time in Corning, but you've been grew up in the surrounding areas to a point, right?
Yeah, we lived in Corning for the first several years, and then we moved up to Bath for a few more years, and then on up to north of Branchport and Keokuk Lake.
Oh, sure.
West of Branch.
Yeah.
And Guy, little crossroads.
Yeah. When you look back at your time in our area, what do you think of? What are the fond memories? Was it a place that you loved?
Oh, yeah. I loved it because my dad was a bread man for a company called Quebeco Bread.
Oh, okay. And
he used to leave the house at 4 in the morning or something, and sometimes he'd take me with him as I was getting older. And I'd ride with him. He drove almost 100 miles a day and serviced the bread to all the little shops and stores out in the country and crossroads, places like that, and within an area around Corning. And I loved walking in that bakery in the mornings on the mix of gasoline and baked goods. I know it sounds silly, but it was a pleasant combination, and they change every once in a while. And of course, once I got in the truck, all I could smell was hopefully what I would get later, a cupcake.
So with that much traveling, you actually saw a lot of the area in a short period of time. Hundreds of miles?
Yeah, he went up along and then when he went to Bath, he worked for NBC there, in their bakery, and we'd go all up and down the Finger Lakes and cross over the mountains there and do the mountains between them, and the hills, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. And then when I lived in Guyana, it was 7 miles over to Penn Yan, where I went to junior high school, 7th and 8th grade. Yeah. Then we moved to Arizona.
Oh, but speaking specifically of your time in Penn Yan, people may not know this, but you were responsible for their mascot.
Yes, they had a contest, I think when I was in one of the 2 grades, 7th or 8th. And I used to love to draw horses. Yeah. And I loved horses, and so they wanted somebody to name the team and everything. So I put in, drew a horse and called it the Mustang.
Yeah, still called the Mustangs today.
It's still there today.
Yep. When did you pick up guitar? Was it while you were in the area, or is that when you moved to Arizona?
No, that was when we moved from Corning to Bath. And I didn't know it, but my dad had an acoustic guitar, and we were loading some coal into the new house for the furnace. And I looked over. I said, "What's that, Dad?" He said, "Oh," he looked. He says, "That's a guitar." "What's it for?" He says, "Will you play it like a musical instrument?" And he says, "I used to court your mother."
Did you know right away that you were going to take to it? I mean, was it one of those things you just couldn't put down?
Well, I asked him to show me how it worked, and he played 3 or 4 chords, which was about the limit of his knowledge on it, maybe 5 chords, something like that. And so I could, he taught them to me, and I just kept playing, kept trying, and hurt my fingers. They had to grow calluses. Never really did, but they did get tough.
Oh, sure.
And, anyway, I could play several chords. I didn't know you could play up to neck for the longest time without doing anything. And
that's funny.
Well, I used to play and sing "Happy Birthday" for the neighbor kids, and things like that. And then in the seventh grade, I think I sang a couple songs in an assembly at Penier.
Oh, wow.
And let's see what else. Oh, went to Hormel
Oh, yeah.
and did a radio show. I took 2 or 3 lessons on the lap steel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I wanted guitar, but my folks liked the Hawaiian guitar, so that's what I got lessons on. But I only took about 3 of them, and then I just rebelled. Did not want to go. But during that time, because everything he taught me I could play instantly, it was just natural for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so he took me with him to his little 15-minute radio show, and we played Missouri Waltz, and I played the lead on that.
Yeah.
And, quite nice.
Did you know that that's what you wanted to do as a career at a young age, or was it just a hobby at that point?
It was just a hobby. I didn't know that even after I started working at 15 in Arizona.
Yeah.
We moved to Arizona in 1951, and in Tucson, and then my dad went to work for Safeway there and worked his way up to assistant manager, and a year or so later we moved to Coolidge, which is a small town halfway between Tucson and Phoenix.
Okay.
And they had a radio station, and this guy, my dad, of course, being a dad, said, my son plays guitar to the disc jockey when he came in to go shopping.
Yeah.
And disc jockey, Jim Doyle, said, well, bring him out to the transmitter, we'll record something, and if it turns out okay, we'll put it on the air.
Yeah.
He did, and that started a whole thing.
So your parents were supportive of going into music? Yeah.
Well, in those days, I don't think they expected me to earn a living out of it. But after they played that on the radio, a friend called, Jimmy Dell, and he called up, and he said, come to my house and play music.
Yeah.
And he played piano, and I played guitar, and we sang together country songs. And so we did that around the area, and just had fun with it, parties and stuff, school dances, whatever. And then, let's see, trying to think where I was going with that.
Well,
Then after that, this local country group called and wanted me to play with them at the VFW, and they said, it pays $15. I couldn't believe that in 1953 or 4.
Yeah.
To get $15 for playing the guitar just seemed ridiculous. But I knew all their songs and stuff, and solos on the records, so I said we rehearsed it, and then we did the gig, and that started me working.
Was country your biggest influence? Is that who you listened to? Country music?
Yeah. Yes. Hank Williams was my man.
Yeah.
A guy, my mentor, sort of, and from him I learned. Just by observing and listening, I realized he was doing his own style, his own sound, and he did it with authority.
Mm-hmm. Is that when you realized you had to come up with your own sound? You had to be different than everyone else?
Well, all the country artists did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could hear the first 2 bars of any new song by a country artist and know what it was just by the sound of the intro, the steel guitar, or they had different tones. Or the guitar, and the fiddle, and whatever it was, they had all had their own sound. Hank Snow did, Lefty Frizzell, and you could just tell in about just a couple of bars who it was going to be before you heard the voice.
Yeah. We have to take a short break, but Duane Eddy's promised he's going to stay with us through the break, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview, and we're broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. Duane Eddy is our guest, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Musician Hall of Famer, and recent Steuben County Hall of Famer. Congratulations.
That's the one I'm proud of. I don't know, there's something about your hometown recognizing you that's better than all the rest.
I'm sure. Do you still have connections to our area?
Yes, I do. I have some friends in Scottsdale, Arizona, that their family's up in Penningham.
Oh, wow.
But other than that, and of course, my relatives are all in Towanda and Alba, Pennsylvania, just 20 miles below the border.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousins and nephews and nieces.
What was it that brought your family to Corning in the first place? Was it the bakery job?
Pardon?
What was it that brought your family to this area in the first place? Was it the bakery job that your father had?
No. He had 3 brothers, and they grew up in Towanda and Lakeland. They were born in Lakeland, which no longer exists. South of Towanda, it was a lumber town. They clear cut it, and then they picked everything up, all the buildings and the railroad tracks, and left it a meadow, which it is now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So before we went to break, we were talking about kind of the beginnings of getting into the guitar. When did you feel that your career had taken off?
Well, I didn't know. You never know from record to record whether it's going to last.
Sure.
But I cut late '57. There was a record called Raunchy that was a top 10 record by 2 different artists and a guitar instrumental. And so by then I'd met my producer. He came to Coolidge as a DJ.
Okay.
And then wanted to be a producer, so he became one. And he got one hit in 1956, Sanford Clark the Fool. And he wrote and produced. And then in '57, he wanted to try an instrumental, so he said, go home and write one. And so I did. And it was called Moving and Grooving.
Yeah.
They released that in January. It got the Billboard charts at 70-something, which encouraged them to say, go back and do some more, which we did in March, and just past March 16th, not long ago, which is the day we cut Rebel Rouser, and that was released in April or so, and somewhere around there at the end of April, I think. And it became a big hit of the summer.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's amazing to me. I don't think there's any movie that takes place in that time that doesn't include Rebel Rouser.
Yeah.
It's so synonymous with that time.
Fine with me.
Keep them coming.
In a movie. Forrest Gump was the biggest one. They sold over 14 million albums of that soundtrack.
Wow.
We had a little help from Elvis, Oakley, and others.
Well, and you mentioned Elvis. You've had an opportunity, I'm sure, to meet just about everybody in the business.
Just about, yes.
Yeah.
I had a very nice experience with Elvis.
Yeah.
We tried to get in the show, and we couldn't. It was sold out, but we went in afterwards, and this was a friend that knew him. And so we got backstage afterward, and he invited me, and I met him, and that was nice. And he said, come on up to the penthouse. We're having a going away. This was his last night.
Oh, okay.
Going party for all the people that worked on the show and all that sort of thing at the hotel. So I did. I went up. Of course, I knew all those musicians had worked with him for years.
Sure.
Sat and talked to him for a while. And then here he came, and he came right over and started talking to me. And we had a great conversation. And it continued off and on, because he would interrupt it to go greet people and talk to them. And his manners were impeccable.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Southern gentleman is a Southern gentleman.
Yeah.
You can't duplicate it.
No.
But he was treating these people so nice, and they just were loving it.
Mm-hmm.
And but he'd work his way back to me, and so we talked. He and Priscilla was there too. He and I and Priscilla talked to about 7 in the morning, and finally he had come down from the show.
Yeah. Wow.
He asked me. He said, "Did you see the show?" I said, "No, we couldn't get in." They called me.
Yeah.
Because I got some influence around here. And I said, well, I would never presume.
Yeah. No. What is it like now when someone comes up to you and talks about how big of an influence you were in their career?
That's the reward I never knew I'd get.
Yeah.
And that's about all I can say about it. This is a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
When especially somebody like John Fogerty or something.
Yeah.
Comes up.
Yeah.
16% of our playbook was Duane Eddy songs, and he tells in interviews that that he was the guy. Well, I was his guy for learning off of, and there's been several, like that. Said I started playing guitar because of you. Ones that blew my mind kind of were two jazz players, bass and guitar player out at the Big Potato in California, Don Randy's place, and I went in one night and he said, "You got to hear these guys; they're really good." And so I listened to them. They just play jazz.
Yeah.
I don't play it, speak of, but I like it, listen to it now and then. And anyway, they both came up to me afterward and they said they'd come from the San Fernando Valley and they'd heard my records. And one guy said, because of those records, he says, I played bass. And the other one says, yeah, and because of those records, I played guitar.
Wow.
He said, we learned all your stuff, and then we progressed from there, went on, and became jazz. We had some training and
Sure.
Musical training, and learned about theory and all that, and then we became jazz players.
Wow. We got to take another short break, but we'll be right back with Duane Eddy. A lot more to get to, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We're being joined by Duane Eddy. Duane, you've had such an amazing career. Are there moments that really stick out to you that are very memorable?
Oh, yes. First time I played the Hollywood Bowl in California. That was one. I call them moments, first time I worked with James Brown up in the Northwest. He didn't have any hits then, but his show was so good.
Yeah.
I when I could, I'd ask the promoter to let him close the show.
Yeah.
Because I felt I like to do that anyway, because instrumentals didn't seem as strong as vocals in some of those live shows.
Yeah.
They were powerful and strong, but they'd been singing, they'd been hearing vocals the whole show.
Sure.
And I come out and play instrumentals, and I thought it'd be nice to have a vocal actor. So I always encouraged that. But James was knocked out with it. He thought that was the nicest thing could have happened to him, and he knew he should have been there anyway. But the shows matched him up, and so that was a moment. And playing the Grand Ole Opry in 1996.
Wow.
Which 17th, that was a childhood dream. I never knew how I'd do it. But
yeah.
That was a dream for me, and one of those moments. And I got to play with Chet Atkins.
Oh, wow.
And we played a Hank Williams song together. So
perfect. When you play the Grand Ole Opry, I know you've played all over the country and all over the world. Is it still a little intimidating to play at the Grand Ole Opry?
No, it's oddly enough, it was before I played it. But once I got on the stage, I found that it was the most comfortable stage I'd ever been on.
No kidding.
The acoustics are wonderful in there.
Yeah.
And everything sounds great, and it just has a warmth, friendly feeling that from the audience and just the walls.
Oh, sure. Well, it's such a legendary venue. Is there a place that you've played outside of those but that became a favorite spot, maybe because of memory or just because you look at some of the bills that you played on, you played with everybody and they used to have the package bills. So are there certain ones that stick out for you on that?
Oh, yeah. I remember we did Dick Clark shows, TV shows in Binghamton.
Wow.
Far from you.
Yeah.
And I used to ride, they put me on these farm equipment things. I was in some kind of loader one time, and another time on a wagon being pulled by a tractor, and I don't know, things like that.
Yeah.
They were like the first music videos.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it amazing to think of how many legends were on each of those bills? And now, you look at the news and one star gets, $1,500 a ticket.
can't imagine.
No.
I can't imagine paying that for
No.
anything.
No.
A car.
Now, I know I don't think I've ever owned a car that's worth quite that much, but the talent back then and also the value you got for your money, it just speaks, I guess, volumes for the time that was taking place.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does. What was the question?
Well, just that, I mean, you look at the talent and the value at that time, it goes to show you that maybe the difference in the music video, maybe that, or the music industry, maybe that's a better way for me to put it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And it is it's like a pickup truck used to sell for $1,800.
Right.
Loaded. And then they became 18,000, and now they're 80,000.
Yeah.
It's
just amazing. If you look back at the beginning of your career, if you could tell yourself something now, back then, what would it be?
Get a better manager. No, I don't know. I probably would have. There's several things I would have done different, not too many.
Yeah.
And because I just didn't know
Yeah.
a lot that was going on in those days. But and I was losing a lot of money. I knew that, but that's another story for another time.
Sure.
And, but I can't think of anything. I got to meet Richard Boone and play act in 2 Afghan World Travels.
I love it.
Plus the Thunder of Drums with him and Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
Anyway, Arthur O'Connell.
Yeah.
So I became friends with Charlie and with Dick. And Dick I stayed friends with for 20 years. 61 until he passed away in 81.
Yeah.
So those are all moments.
Amazing.
And, I'm trying to think. Everly Brothers, I worked with them and produced Phil's first solo album for RCA. Another highlight, another moment, and it's just been. I went to Nancy Sinatra's birthday party one time in Frank, and
yeah,
all these people were there, and it was just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes I just, kind of like knock on wood or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wonder, well, my current producer calls me the Forrest Gump of rock and roll.
And the irony of your song being in Forrest Gump is pretty amazing, too.
Yeah. Well, they kind of like that because I just fell into these situations and met these people.
Yeah.
I met all of Rat Pack.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Sammy Davis, and Dean Martin, and got to hang with all of them.
Yeah.
And, so it's been exciting and fun, and then there's some music. I got to play
yeah.
with the best musicians in the world.
Yeah.
All over the world. Yeah. Everybody from Paul Schaefer to Paul McCartney.
Yeah. And we're going to talk more about that on tomorrow's show because we're going to take another short break, and then we're going to play the second part of this interview tomorrow. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview, and we're broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. Our guest for day 2, Duane Eddy. Thanks again for being on the show, Duane. It's so good to see you and talk with you.
Well, same here, Frank. I really have enjoyed our conversation, and it's great to speak to the people of Corning and Bath and everywhere around there.
Mm-hmm. And our studios are right on Market Street, the beautiful downtown district.
Oh, man, when I saw that a couple of years ago, I couldn't believe it. It's a beautiful city. It's a world-class Market Street, world-class Main Street, whatever you call it.
Yeah, yeah.
And, we have a nice Main Street here in Franklin, Tennessee, but I think that Corning one is just as good as any I've seen anywhere in the world. Boutique stores, and for the shopping, and just the look of it. It's beautiful.
It is It's a
The
beautiful.
barn in, I guess they did away with, and they got a new one now.
Yeah.
I was too much for them, so they got rid of it.
Yeah. Duane Eddy is our guest. So we were talking about the kind of the beginning of your career, middle career, but when you came up with the signature twangy sound, did you realize you had something special, or was it something difficult to sell to people?
Well, I didn't know at first. That's just, I knew I had to have something different and something distinctive and something of my own. And as I said earlier, do it with authority and with emotion.
Mhm.
And let it all hang out. And that's what I did. Whether I was rocking an up-tempo song or loving a slow ballad, you know.
Right.
Just try to put everything into it. And I guess people, well, it's what a friend of mine said, I communicated with that sound. That's why I had all those hits and everything. But no, that's just something I did naturally because all the country artists did that. And,
Right.
And I thought there's no point in recreating something that somebody else did.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people make that mistake.
Sure.
And a lot of people made it with me. I mean, they tried to play like me, but sometimes I think there was one guy that had some hits with orchestra and might. But other than that, most people just used it as a side instrument. And but everybody say, "Oh, that sounds." When they used to write on the charts in the studio, the sessions, recording sessions, they'd because one of the musicians in the date that I wasn't on or anything to do with me, he brought me a sheet of music once, and he said, "This is a sheet of music I had." He was a guitar player too.
Yeah.
And he said the arranger wrote this on the top. It says, "Solo, play Duane Eddy." And so they knew, it became a staple.
Yeah. You probably talked with a lot of guitarists. I don't know if you worked with a lot of guitarists, but when you see a guitarist, do you, I don't want to say judge them, but do you study them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was a big fan of Chet Atkins and James Burton and everybody that you can think of. Howard Roberts, Barney Kessel. They were jazz players, but they worked on my sessions in the early days, and especially in Hollywood they did. And not Dream, but yeah, I know practically every guitar player in the business.
Yeah.
And I've worked with most of them. Everybody like the Stray Cats.
Oh, sure.
Can't think.
Brian Setzer?
Brian Setzer, thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There you go. That all of these names escape you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Brian, I worked with him. I recorded with him. And, let's see. Chet Atkins, I worked with him.
Amazing.
Met around Travis. I didn't work with him, but I read him.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark Knopfler, I didn't work with him, but I met him. And I'm trying to think. Jeff Beck, I got to work with him.
Oh, wow.
For the rest of his soul.
Yeah.
He came out, we were out in California, and he was doing one show, and I was doing my show. He was doing a Cliff Gallup thing for all the musicians out there, and I was doing my thing.
Yeah.
And then he came up with me and played the last song, and I said to him, take as many solos as you want, Jeff. He says, no, I can only do 2. He says, I got to catch a plane. And sure enough, he did. He gave me a big hug around the neck, and then he was gone after the song was over. And I thought he was kidding, making a joke. But I said, where did you go? He says, he jumped out of here, grabbed his guitar, and ran to the car, and he's at the airport by now.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Someone that a lot of times I think you hear about most top-rated guitarists and underrated guitarists. To me, I think someone that's really underrated, and I think because a lot of his music was kind of humorous, was Jerry Reed.
Oh yeah, I love Jerry Reed and told him so.
Yeah.
But I never got to. Oh yes, I did. I got to play at a friend's house. We sat there, and I had my gut string, and he had his.
Yeah.
And he started playing, so I picked mine up and kind of played rhythm along with him, and then we got into playing this song together. And so then I took it. He took a solo, and I took a solo. And halfway through my solo, I'm really, I'm thinking, boy, nobody's going to like this as well as his, as well as they like him. And but halfway through, I heard him say, "Son." I knew I'd made it.
Yeah, that's when you knew you made it. Duane Eddy is our guest. You mentioned that you were in some Have Guns Will Travel, did some acting, that you produced some albums. Does it still, at the end of the day, boil down to you want to play music, or do you like the behind-the-scenes stuff as well?
I didn't care for the behind-the-scenes so much. I liked the music, producing film, and things like that. But the paperwork and buttons and stuff, I need somebody to do. I need a secretary. Not too good at it. I got it done. Mm-hmm. It's just a big waste of time, it seems. And it comes back to the music always.
Yeah.
I still like to do one more album, and I may.
Yeah. Well, you were recently on the album with Robert Plant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert and Allison.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was on the album. I did a TV spot for England.
That's okay. I knew I saw a clip somewhere. Oh, that's really neat. You have, by the way, the most amazing group of fans with the Duane Eddy Circle. Talk about great pictures, a great newsletter. I can't tell you how much I look forward to getting the newsletter.
Oh, I know. Arthur does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys, Arthur and Jim Grant, and Mike Richards, Philip Pell, they have a great time with their convention every year. Now they're doing it soon because of the COVID thing.
Yeah.
But they're just a great bunch. It's kind of, we call it the inner circle.
Yeah. Well, selfishly, I'm glad they do it over Zoom, because before it was in England. Now I get to join, and so many people in our area get to join on and see our fellow fans.
Yes. Yes, it is nice.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really happy about that.
Are you ever surprised some of the stuff that they dig up, like some of the pictures, and it always seems like they have something new that hasn't been seen?
I know, and much of it.
Yeah.
Not terribly a lot, but quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
Stuff I hadn't seen. And,
it's amazing.
Things that I remember recording, but I haven't heard them since I recorded them.
Right.
Dig them up somewhere.
They find them, that's for sure. We have a few other things we got to get to. Let me take... No, I'm good on time, actually. What did it mean to you to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Was that ever on your radar?
Oh, yeah. I was nominated probably as much as anybody. What was it? It was about 13 times.
Oh, wow.
8 times, I guess.
Yeah.
I was nominated to be in it. And finally, John Fogerty went up and says, look, he says, you need to put Duane Eddy in here.
Yeah.
This is one of the pioneers, and you haven't put him in. He should have been in several times years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they got all mad. Don't tell us what to do. Get out of here. And they barred him from coming into their offices for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But they finally got it done. He was going to induct me, but that's when they had the big earthquake.
Oh.
And his house slid down the hill. So he was all right. All his family was okay. But they did have damage to their house.
Yeah.
So he couldn't make it, but we saw a guy from Foreigner, Mick Jones, their guitar player, did the job and did a nice job of it. And I played Rebel Rouser and made my little speech, and that was it.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was not. It was nice. John F. Kennedy Jr. was sitting right in front of me down
No kidding.
in the office. And I thought, my gosh, he sparkles.
Yeah.
He's so clean and
Yeah.
handsome. He had that charisma.
The air, yeah. Yeah. We got to take a short break, our first one. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to WYDC TV, Big Fox. This is Frankly Speaking. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and this is the M.A. Neal Financial Services interview, and we're being joined by the legendary Duane Eddy. Duane, thanks again.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm very pleased to be with you. Thank you.
Yes. So we've talked in the past about some of the, you mentioned Elvis and some of the legends you worked with. Is there anybody you wish you could have had an opportunity to work with?
Ray Charles.
Yeah.
George Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I got to know George, and I found a song for him called "The Race Is On," which became a staple of his.
Yeah.
The years, but I knew the songwriter in Phoenix and cut a demo and played it for George one morning. He came by my office and he said, "Can I take that with me?" And I said, "Sure."
Yeah.
I thought I had the publishing on it, but turns out the singer, the writer, had signed it with somebody else just before that.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't. And then, anyway,
Yeah.
that worked out great for him. I
Yeah.
was happy.
Yeah, it skyrocketed his career in a lot of ways. But in those days, because you were known for rock and roll, was it difficult for country to let you in the door, or was it mutual?
Well, there were a lot of people, not the main people, and the guitar players and the musicians. They understood what I was doing,
Right.
most of them. But a lot of people around them would say, "I don't understand it. Chet Atkins plays all this great guitar, and Duane just goes down, 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 and he gets all these hits, and Chet don't get them." And so I ran into that a lot.
Yeah.
People lost
Yeah.
things like that.
When I know,
But mainly now, I've lived here 30 years.
right.
5 years, and it's the most heartwarming community, musicians and people, like the Musicians Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, of course. That's in Cleveland, and I may get into the Country Hall of Fame, I don't know, but I've done several things for them,
Yeah.
and like played for, they had a sound on Marty Robbins' record, "Don't Worry About Me." It was the first fuzz tone.
Yeah.
And it was caused by a faulty thing in the board
Oh, okay.
and made the guitar sound like that, but they left it. So it became such a hit. But then when Grady Martin died, who was the guitar player that played it, one of the best ever, he played on El Paso, and just, you can't imagine the stuff, different things he did that were so great.
Yeah.
Anyway, they wanted to honor him. So Vince Gill sang, I think it was Vince sang the song for Marty Stewart. And no, it was, how's it called?
Mandy Barnett.
Mandy Burnett. She sang it, and I played the fuzz tone guitar, and that was just fun. It was like we recreated the record.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just a fun night. That was one thing I did. There have been others.
Did
Did a trip with a steel player, Buddy Emmons, and
Oh.
played it.
was it an exciting, I guess, announcement when they said that you would be getting your own signature Gretsch, or was that a kind of you should have one?
Well, I thought that I wanted to have one back when I was having hits.
Yeah.
Yeah, early 60s.
Yeah.
But my manager wasn't too good at making deals, so I don't know how he presented it to him, but they turned it down, he said. And Gibson turned it down, but Guild took it. So I had the first one was a Guild signature guitar.
Okay.
Then I met Chet, with George Harrison introduced me to him, and in London. And so after that, he contacted me and said, well, I didn't have a signature right then, and he asked if I'd like to have a Gretsch signature guitar, so I went down to Savannah and we put it together, and I had one for a long time. And then he went with Fender, so I thought I'll just go with Gibson. Because I had a Gibson who wanted to have been dying to make me a guitar, Mike McGuire, and he made me one, and I loved it. But that they weren't Gibson was kind of wonky, and they didn't advertise it at all. So they sold it a bunch, and then they stopped selling. So I talked to somebody at Gretsch, and they said, "You can always come back to us, you know." And I said, "Well, I might be interested." So next thing I know, Gretsch got on the phone, and I left Gibson and went back to Gretsch, and they made the perfect guitar. Imitation, what do you call that? A copy of my original.
Oh, like a replica?
A replica.
Yeah.
And the guy came, the master builder, Luthier, came here at the house and measured that guitar. And that guitar, the original, is in Scottsdale in the Musical Instrument Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay.
Musical Instrument Museum.
Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. And you mentioned you were introduced in the whole process when it came to George Harrison. The Beatles were huge fans of yours, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
And I worked with both Paul and Ringo and George, all three of them. I didn't get to meet John. And but I worked with Paul on '85 in my Capitol album, Duane Eddy is titled.
Yeah.
And with George and Jeff Lynne, Mike Cooter, James Burton, John. All of us were on that. Larry Nexel.
Yeah.
Just a great piano player and guitar player and harmonica player and bass player.
Yeah.
He's a genius. And Jim Horn, of course, the sax player. Anyway, it was a fun album.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And, we just had a great time.
Yeah.
Paul was great, and George, of course. I went up to his house and stayed, and worked on it in his home studio. And he added slide guitar.
Oh, okay.
And Ry Cooter was on this album too.
Yeah.
And he played slide. And I love the difference between them. Ry is very aggressive, and George is pure love. You know, when they play, you can just hear the difference.
Yeah.
So I just had a great time.
Oh, sure. Just before we go, because I know we're just about out of time on the program, but do you find yourself maybe sitting home at night and you turn on a movie or you turn on the TV and you're surprised because there's your song playing on some TV show or some movie?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I have done that. But the biggest surprise, we took our grandson to see Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
And he's about 12 at the time. And I didn't know. We just had no idea that they'd put Rebel Rouser into that movie.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and it starts when Forrest, run, and then down, and he starts, takes off running, runs through the football field, and Rebel Rouser played it was the longest cue in the movie, they said.
Yeah.
And they played all through that. But while it was playing, my grandson jumped up on his seat, stood on his seat, and yelled out, "That's my grandpa!" And we heard people around the theater laughing. It was very cute.
Yeah. Oh, that's.
They didn't seem surprised in Nashville.
No, probably common occurrence. Do you hear Rebel Rouser in your head when you're sleeping at night? You've played it so often.
No. No. And when I do it on stage, I do it like it's the first time I.
Yeah.
Some people were hearing it for the first time.
Sure.
And some people are. I try to make it sound like the original, as close as possible, so they recognize every note. And,
Oh, yeah.
it's just fun to do.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great song. It's so catchy that you'll have it stuck in your head the rest of the day as soon as you hear it, which has got to be a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A friend of mine taught his kid this song, you know.
Yeah.
And then I went up to their office one day, and the kid was there. He was about 13 or so. And his father had me play. He says, well, Duane played Rebel Rose on acoustic here. And so I did. I played a verse of it, and he leaned over to his dad, and he said, Dad, you didn't play it right. Which tickled his dad to death. You know.
What a perfect way to end this interview. Duane, I can't tell you enough how much it means that you gave me this much time today.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Frank, and good luck with your new TV show.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And congratulations again on your election, I hope.
That's right. Yeah, councilman. Pretty fancy.
Did you make it or did you?
I won, but I have to run for another term. So I have, because it was just an expired term, so now I have 4 more years. Yep. Yep.
Well, good luck. And,
Thank you.
And everybody vote for Frank.
Thanks. Oh, I just found my new campaign ad. Thank you. Duane Eddy's been our guest. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.